something bad to us, we are going to do things to you that have never been done before.
Well, howdy, folks, and welcome back to the bus. It's how life goes, and hope your day is going pretty good. It's the end of the week. Woohoo! Well, maybe not for you, but certainly for most people, the end of the week, and with a little bit of luck, you've got some nice stuff planned out for the weekend. Fingers crossed it all works in your favour. We've been having some connection issues, so I'm recording now this part of the show because, well, my guest couldn't be with us tonight. But he will prove an interesting talking point for the beginning of the evening, I am sure. He's known and loved by many of you, but he's known simply as Bob.
How are we doing, Nico?
Good, mate. Long time no talk.
Yeah, I've been very, very busy, and a lot of life has gotten in the way.
Yeah, it happens, doesn't it? But it's just part of what goes on in the world, I guess. Life does get in the way, and sometimes, presents us with the odd hurdle or two. It's good to see that we're both climbing those hurdles and going for the next one. So good to have you back on the show, mate.
Yeah, no, I'm well and truly honoured to be back on the show, and
so
look forward.
I've had a sheep load of email out.
Yeah.
People saying, when are you getting Bob back? Get Bob back on. More of the secrets of Bob. It must be that deeply sexy husky voice that you have.
I wouldn't quite go that far, but
so I have acquiesced to the people's wishes, mate, and Bob's back. So without further ado, let's get into it, because a whole heap has gone on in the world, and you, being former military yourself, have today let me in on a few little insights into your military history. I knew that there was some stuff there that we couldn't talk about, and still talk about, but there are certain pieces used to.
You're just frozen there, Carl.
Oh, I've just frozen. Oh, good on me.
You're back now. So
right, very good. I don't know, this connection. Fingers crossed it works. So we'll see what happens. So I was saying that your connection in the military, I wasn't sure what you could actually talk about, but there is certain elements of what you used to do that you are able to talk about, and some of the elements or some of the things that you used to do involved remote viewing, which I find extremely interesting. So,
yes,
I mean, I know little bits and pieces about remote viewing, but for those people who aren't really au fait with how it works, can you give us an outline, a bit of a descriptor of what remote viewing actually is?
Okay, so remote viewing is where you work, in effect, as a spiritual medium. Now, for every thought that you have, or a conversation, whether it's an anger, love, whatever, it leaves an energy trace. So we can either listen to phone calls, we can use bugging equipment in rooms, we can use photos, we can use physical objects, like whether it's a watch, bracelet, a piece of clothing, anything that has what we call the target's energy. So the target is a specific person, or it's a place. And what we do, we go into a sort of, and not really a trance, but into a meditative state, and we actually follow that energy. and it can be anywhere in the world. But the one big thing with remote viewing is there is no time. So, for argument's sake, if we wanted to know about, say, a particular hotel, whether someone was murdered there, they would actually send the remote viewer into the hotel, into that specific room. We would then sit down, because we're in the energy of the room. We can actually go back in time and see what happened, who was involved, and we can then report back once we're out of the room or out of that trance. Now, often we'll have two of us, and we would come in, we'd sweep the room for bugs, because there's certain rooms that are used by other countries where they have false mirrors, they have full, microphone setups. They've got purposely, they've got hard panels, so they'll use a laser through your window, so they can see and hear conversations simply by the vibration of the window pane or the hard wall behind you.
Wow.
There's all sorts. And we would then go through and say, yep, okay, this person who was murdered, whether it was throat was slit, whether he was poisoned, shot, whatever, and we could actually track where this person went, why they were taken out. But were they looking to disclose information to the public that the deep state didn't want spoken about? Like a very, very common technique when they dispose of someone is they'll actually put them through a tree chipper, and then they feed the remains to pigs. So literally within a few hours, an entire body gone, and there's no trace of it.
Yeah.
And very, very common way of disposing of people. And sadly,
that's an old saying, always be friends with the pig farmer. Any man who owns a lot of pigs, good man to stay on the right side of.
Most definitely. And now you also know one of the reasons why the Jews will never eat pig.
Yeah.
Because that's how they get rid of their problems, and they know it. Just saying.
Yeah, right. Right.
That's
amazing that you can travel down these energy lines and get an accurate audio and visual representation of things that have happened prior.
Yep.
I can understand how that would be used in a law enforcement sense. But you weren't working for the New Zealand coppers.
No. So the targets that I was going after posed either a significant risk to governments. When you look into Looking Glass, now, for those people who don't know what Looking Glass is a technology, let's put it that way, that can see into the future and will give them possibilities on what is to be. Now, with Looking Glass, when you look at it, it looks like a small black cube. Now, they can get either sound or they can get video through a single box. If they want both, they need to have two in the same place. And
so they need to have two of those black cubes in the place where they are at, or two at each end?
No. They need to have those two cubes together in the same room while they're looking and doing whatever they're trying to find out.
Yeah.
So one will do video, one will do audio. And generally there's 7 of these, and they never ever stay in the same place for more than 24 hours at a time. So they're always on the move. The group of people that will view literally is about 15 people worldwide. That's how guarded these things are.
Yeah.
When they travel, they are under full security, as it were. You approach them, you'll end up with a 38 slug in your head very quick. And these people do not muck around.
Yeah.
So these travel literally all over the world. I spent probably well over a year traveling around Europe, chasing these guys, because we knew where they would go to next. And at this stage, I can't say what they were viewing, just simply because of the sensitivity of it.
Sure.
That could still, make me end up in federal prison and the key thrown away.
Yeah.
If not, I'll be a grease spot. But they had a limitation back in 2012 where, because all the timelines merged, they could only see pretty much all the possibilities up to 2012.
I think it was
there,
December 12th, wasn't it? 2012. That was as far as they could see, or December 21st, or something like that.
12. Yeah.
Yeah.
So 12. Yeah. As far as they could see all possibility, from that date, they could only ever see one possibility, and because all the timelines had merged, so it was back then that they actually started, or sorry, before then is when they actually started the coronavirus and how they were going to start to develop it and then execute it. Now, unfortunately, old President Trump, he forced their hand because they still hadn't enough stocks made at that time. They had a weapon that was dangerous, but they needed it, more stable, and then produce it in large amounts. And hence what's transpired, that with the rollout, they only had partial, first off, because that's all they could make. So many people, if they took the jab for the first time, they then ended up with a saline shot. But from the second and onward, they started to have enough out there, and that's decimated our population, which we now know, because people are seriously dropping off.
Reports of 35 million worldwide so far.
Yeah. Now the big thing that people have got to realise here too is, with the Ghibli jab, it's not just the jab. All right, these guys, they put it in your water, in your food, in your medication, and they've sprayed you. So even though you're physically not jabbed, I can guarantee you, no matter who you are, where you are, unless you've literally lived in the middle of a desert where you simply haven't seen anyone else, remotely, you haven't seen anyone else or come in contact with anyone really from the outside world, you will have it. And it's they literally have got everyone. And even with the people who have come in contact with it, you're still shedding the spike protein. I mean, everyone generally will be affected. And the only people are not will probably be the elites, who are now all underground at the moment. Because when these people travel, they are not allowed to travel by air. Okay, so the heads of the 13 families are not allowed to travel by air. So a lot of people would obviously say, okay, so how do they travel? Well, there is a network underground that they use, and basically it's like a very, very high-speed rail, but they don't use rails. Okay, and this is one of the... Sorry?
Maglev technology?
Similar to it, yes. Yeah. And
we're talking maglev technology, I've been told.
Yeah, Yeah, so these vehicles they will move at over 700 mile an hour. They are very, very quick. And they can move discreetly. Some of the higher higher demand sex slaves will also travel that way. That way they can get around countries' borders without documentation, without anyone physically knowing.
Yeah.
And
the sex slave doesn't know what country they're in until they pop up in it. And even then probably don't know.
Basically, yes. Yeah, there's still a huge amount of human trafficking. Not all of them go directly into the sex industry. A good portion do, but there is a huge amount that will travel by other means, and shipping is one of the worst for getting huge numbers of people, illegal workers, into a country. They're trapped. They've got no credentials, no bank accounts, no nothing, and all they have to look forward to is work.
Yeah.
And that's absolutely every country on this earth, Antarctica included.
Well, you've jumped there, so let's go there. There is a website currently called the-final-experiment.com, where a pastor out of Colorado in America wants to take 24 flat earthers and 24 global believers or globalist believers down to Antarctica this December for a week to once and for all prove one way or the other whether or not the earth is flat or not. Now, we've spoken before. You have spent a bit of time above Antarctica. I've never actually asked you whether or not you ever landed on it. Did you ever spend any time there in the summer months?
Okay, I've physically set foot on Antarctica once. We had a person at McMurdo who ended up with appendicitis and needed to be flown out quickly. So normally McMurdo, they've got a full sort of operating theatre and that sort of thing down there, but the doctors and stuff that they had at the time didn't have the skills. So we actually ended up landing the Orion. And in the back of our aircraft, we've actually got bunks. So we actually made up a bed for him, literally, and took a couple of medics with us, and we flew him back to Christchurch in New Zealand. And he underwent surgery that night, and saved his life.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, that's the only time I've physically set foot on Antarctica. The way the treaties and that sort of thing work, the general public are not allowed to set foot on Antarctica. The cruise ships and that sort of thing that go down, they are restricted to certain areas, and this is why. There are, out of South Africa, there are a couple of more exclusive areas where they will actually fly a jet down. They then get out, they spend about 3 hours exploring the ice, but they are in an area literally where there is nothing. So there's nothing to see, there's no ruins, whatever, from their side. That is the only commercial venture that I know of that actually gets to Antarctica.
Yeah, right.
Everywhere else is literally, if you tried to sail down there, you would be met by a warship. Yes. And you'd either told turn around or you wouldn't come back. And those are the two options. On the Orions, we used to carry 2 torpedoes. Now, thankfully, we didn't need to use them, but there was that capability that you didn't want to turn around. We'll put you to the bottom.
Yeah, right. So they take it very, very seriously.
Very, very seriously. with Antarctica, the only way you can technically get down there is through scientific means. Now, the military, they say they're not allowed to technically patrol or defend Antarctica through the treaty. However, there's plenty of loopholes that the military use because they're the only one of the big ones that they use is the aircraft type that go down. The only type of aircraft that is either rated or certified for extreme conditions like that is generally military type aircraft. So they get around it that way. And then they can turn around and say, well, they're also doing either scientific experiment, they're assisting the scientific community. That's how they get around it by law. If anyone was actually to, try it on, but they never try it on because they'd never win.
Yeah.
Because the military and whatnot would simply bog them down in, legal paperwork and whatnot. They'll be there for 100 years.
We do hear tales of battles on Antarctica between particularly the 5 major nations of the treaty agreement.
Yes.
Is that something you've heard anything about?
Yeah, there is. Okay, with Antarctica, there is ancient remains and stuff down there. There is also ancient technology that is down there. Some of your biggest battles are generally between US, Russia, United Kingdom have got, obviously with the Commonwealth, they've got a stake in there.
Yeah.
And yes, there are battles. Down in Antarctica, they have so-called fishing vessels. Now, these fishing vessels, that if you were to actually go and attack them, would drop the sides of their boats out and come and produce 2 very large 50 cal machine guns, and certainly take your aircraft apart.
Yep.
They are also very, very well wired for communication. So there's, where they will literally monitor anything and everything that they can and send that back to their home country. So even the scientists or so-called scientists talking on their radios, they'll know about it.
So what do we make of the Japanese whaling fleet then? Is it purely there for whaling, or is it also an intelligence gathering fleet?
Okay. Part of it is, they are whaling. Part of it, especially with Korea, China, and Japan, they've got fleets down there trying to poach the Patagonian toothfish. So a very sought after fish in the Asian countries. However, a lot of them will also double up as communication bases where they will actively listen to anything. Now, they have compartments within their vessel, which you would think, it's a pump or it's a holding chamber or something like that if anyone was ever to board the vessel. But they've actually designed it in such a way that you can't see it. They've got secret entrances into those areas. They're very cramped, tight, but they are fully wired for covert operations. Let's put it that way.
Why is there a need for this level of covert operations, do you think?
Because of the technology that is down in Antarctica.
Yeah.
There is a hell of a lot that is being hidden, and that will never, ever, as far as the deep state is concerned, never, ever will it come to light. Now,
and the reason behind that would be because it would damage their
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we're talking 0 point energy. We're talking direct energy weapons. And I'll come back to that in a minute. But flying over certain areas of Antarctica with the Orion. Now, if anyone ever looks up the picture of the Orion, you'll see a little spike that sits at the back of the Orion.
Stinger.
Yep. Now, that's what they call a magnetometer. So essentially what it does, it picks up very, very small changes in the Earth's electrical activity. So for argument's sake, if you're flying across water, you've got a submarine underneath, which is made of steel. The Earth's magnetic field will change when you add steel in on a specific point. And that's what we see. Now, when we were flying over Antarctica, we used to have to turn that off because of the radiant energy that was coming from certain areas.
From under the ice pack.
From under the ice pack. And it would send it off the charts. So, wow. Yeah, because we're normally looking for something very small, and metallic in a huge ocean. And suddenly, we're now flying over something that's massive, has its own power generation, but there is no, we're not talking diesel generators. No. We're not talking, anything. Yeah, I mean, when you sort of think anything that goes to Antarctica has got to be in a drum and has got to be forklifted on and off. So they do send diesel in, but there's not enough diesel physically to supply the likes of McMurdo. And McMurdo is only one base. There's 30 odd, or used to be like 30 odd scattered all over. To keep those running 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. The numbers, they do not.
A week out there.
Yeah, basically. But from where a ship could berth into into say McMurdo, you're several kilometres from where the ice pack actually is to where the base is. Yeah. So and they can't put a pipeline in because the ice will shift. It'll simply shear the pipeline. Plus the actual cold temperature. As soon as you start to push something like that, you'll actually get a thermal shock of the pipe and split it. It's no good. Yeah. So you actually have to bring it in by air. There is no other option. So there's a hell of a lot hidden down there. That people simply just are totally unaware of.
Do you think the day will come where we will be exposed to this technology?
Well, you already have. Christchurch earthquake is a perfect example. That was a test shot. The directed energy weapons that they've got, they say it's for weather monitoring and so-called peaceful means. Total bullshit. The initial Christchurch earthquake, they missed the city because the first strike happened in the countryside, and the particular epicenter, if you want to put it that way, where they hit, it used to be a long, long straight road, and when it hit, it put a kink in the road for about 5-6 meters. So now in order to travel that road, you've actually got to slow down in one particular point to take this like S-bend, and then you keep going straight again. And that's the sort of level that we're talking about. Right. When both the earthquakes happened, you had a green sky in the morning, which you do not see that far north. You had like aurora borealis. First thing in the morning. You don't get that. You get that way south, or you get the northern lights way up, near your Arctic Circle. You don't get it that far up. So this is what has worried me so much with the auras and whatnot that we've been seeing here in Australia, and in the past few weeks.
Yeah.
Now, also talking to some of my older friends, they've had similar situations in Europe. They've had similar situations like UK, United States. They've had some areas pop up, but suddenly have you also noticed that the COVID or supposed COVID outbreak has happened all in those countries all at the same time.
Yeah.
Now, if you go and look into your encyclopedias prior to about 1970, you'll actually see the description for radiation sickness. And classically, it's all of your symptoms that you have for the flu. So achy joints, runny nose, you're fatigued, you're generally, really, really under the weather.
Yeah.
One of the other big ones that you get is issues with your lungs, where you end up with a lot of respiratory type issues. So pneumonia, bronchitis, they'll all pop up constantly. And you think, yeah, I'm good. And then a couple of weeks later, you get hit again and again and again. It takes weeks to get over. If you look at a lot of people who are supposedly have come down with COVID again, this is exactly what's happening. They get hit and they get better and they get hit again, but it's never as bad as the first. And this may take 6 or 8 weeks before it's actually clear of your system.
Yeah.
Yeah. If it was a true virus, it would hit you, you'd drop, your body's immune system would repair your body, and then away you go. You'd have an immune response to it. So if you happen to get that bug again, your body already knows how to deal with it. It would react immediately. You might feel off color for a day, but that's it. Boom. Jump up. You're not constantly getting the repeat time and time and time again. So this is yet another way in which they're bumping off the population, because when they've had the spicy dart, a lot of these people, their immune systems are shot.
Yeah.
So now when they get hit by this stuff, they can't recover.
They feel it so much more.
Yeah. And of course, they can plead total deniability for it because they've never touched them. And this is only but the start. I mean, directed energy weapons have been around for a wee while, but they have definitely perfected the use of them now.
I think they did a couple of test runs. Hawaii, one would suggest the east coast of Australia a couple of years ago in New South Wales. Yeah, there's plenty of examples of it. And in fact, a lot more is out on Telegram and a few other places now, where reputable fire investigators are taking you through certain buildings and premises that have been well, not just buildings and premises, cars. They show you, vehicles that have been melted in position, and then they go on to explain how the temperatures required to melt certain metals is X, and the temperature of a forest fire with trees like this is Y. How did a remarkably less heat source create so much damage? How did it manage to cut buildings in half and ignore buildings with blue roofs?
Yep, that's right. Anything that was generally blue, so whether it was a car and whatnot, would be untouched. But yet, meters away, say a red car was absolutely melted to nothing. And this is only just the beginning, folks, of what is truly out there.
Yeah, well, that sort of technology is one thing, and that's obviously
mhm,
you've got to hope that it's in the hands of the good people as well. Um,
yeah.
I I've been talking about for a few years the rods of God. I definitely believe they're in the hands of the white hats.
Uh,
Um,
yes, there is also a smaller version of that. Do you remember the old movie Eraser with Arnold Schwarzenegger and
I do,
Denise
yes,
Williams? Right, with the rail gun,
yes,
where they fire a small aluminium projectile. Yeah,
yes,
they are very, very much a reality and is often used by snipers because they are so fast. They generally don't have a lot of movement of the projectile, so they can
yes,
literally drill someone. Um, yeah, and they would never know where they were because there is no muzzle flash. They could be in and they can be out, gone,
yeah,
and
yeah.
and as quick as that.
I've actually heard that there is a pistol, an assassin's pistol that is gas operated, basically a gas operated slingshot that fires an aluminium disc.
Yep, yep,
So, and that disc shape must have something to do with its ability to maintain its ballistic flight path. That's the biggest issue with long shots, particularly anything over
yes,
a couple of 100 meters. Um, the bullet drops. So that's why wind becomes a factor, and all sorts of different things become factors.
hmm
The Coriolis effect also.
hmm
Um, yeah, the training that goes into firing a sniper's bullet is extensive. But this takes a lot of that paperwork and that trigonometry out of it.
yeah, yeah. Well,
Like you say, the thing fires at 3,000 kilometers an hour.
to give folks a bit of an idea, I mean the railgun when they use that fires that projectile at 15,000 feet per second. A standard projectile from a high-powered rifle is normally up about 3,000. So this is the sort of difference that we're talking. When it fires
And
out,
these
it's
are
extremely quick.
electrically operated too, aren't they?
Yes, yes, they are. They're all done with magnetic field. So as it fires it down the rifle barrel, yeah, it spins it
It
up,
keeps
and
accelerating.
yeah, and it just keeps going. And yeah, so when it literally comes out the end of that muzzle, yeah, it is doing 15,000 feet per second, and
Yeah, if
that
you
is
go onto YouTube,
crazy,
you can
crazy
see
fast.
some old Navy footage of it being tested,
Hmm
testing railguns, and the flame that comes out of the end of these things when they fire them, and the projectile that comes
Yep.
out. There's no bear in mind. There's no gunpowder, no nothing.
hmm
This flame is, I guess, just generated from uh, the
Sheer.
heat and
Yeah.
the sheer effort of what they're creating, the
See,
friction.
with the the later railguns that they've actually put almost like a suppressor on the very end of the barrel, where they can actually suppress over 95% of that muzzle flash. So when it literally comes out, it's just like you flicking a lighter. You wouldn't pick it up,
Yeah, wow, wow.
and it's yeah, horribly frightening. And if you can sort of think of the energy behind it, that yeah, so if that hit a armored personnel carrier, that would put a
Yep.
humongous hole in the side of it. Yeah,
And
there's that
then
much energy. Oh, you're
projectile
frozen,
is
Carl.
likely to be coated in something that shatters once it's gone through the side of the APC, and then that whatever shatters, the shrapnel, bounces around inside the APC just to make sure
Mm-hmm.
that
Yep.
everybody inside gets well looked
Yeah.
after.
Yep. There is such or even a standard 50 cal round. There are versions of that do exactly that. They have depleted uranium in the tip, so it's enough when it comes in, it punches a hole in the armor, and then the rest of the projectile shatters, and then literally whoever's inside ends up as a Swiss cheese because it
Yeah,
just bounces around.
yeah.
And
I've
yeah,
seen
personally, you've got to be a sick bastard in order to make up something like that.
Yeah, the people that come up with these ideas,
Yeah.
some of the things I've seen, high tensile steel springs in a sort of a triangle format, all loaded into the head of a tank projectile for an anti-tank weapon, and that fires with a guy wire, and the first charge, if you like, doesn't punch.
Oh, you just dropped out again, Carl.
The first projectile doesn't punch a hole in the side of the tank. It puts a very big dimple on the inside of it. And what follows a few seconds later, or a few tenths of a second later, is a molten lead charge that then bursts through the weakened side of the tank and into the interior, letting go all of these little tiny triangular bits of steel that bounce off everything and continue bouncing for, somebody said up to 10 minutes, but 7 minutes, they reckon, is the longest they've ever heard of, still bouncing around inside. 7 minutes later, the energy involved in that, staggering. So, yeah, not a fun thing to be caught on the inside of. But railguns are the new technology, and we're seeing them rolled out both on Chinese and American warships now. The new Chinese fleet, of which there is the largest aircraft carrier now in the world, and I think the second largest in the world, belonging to China. They have an extensive sixth or fifth generation Air Force, rather, with a lot of sixth generation research continuing, as does America. China are positioning themselves around Taiwan at the moment. We've heard lots of talk about Taiwan. We have heard Joe Biden quietly, while his son Hunter was being convicted of all sorts of charges, we've seen his father quietly give the tacit nod of approval to Ukraine to use American weapons to fire into Russia. Intel background. Now that we're seeing a number of Russian warships in and around the Caribbean, and certainly in Havana, in the harbor, there are 4 big Russian warships there at the moment. Is this a warning to Joe Biden that should an American weapon sent out of a proxy third country, being Ukraine, if that is a signal, and Putin has already said, if you fire on us with Western weapons, we're going to fire back. Is he now just signifying, well, if it's okay to use a third country to attack us, then we might just use a third country to attack you? They have a very formidable fleet, and the fleet has been testing for a week, apparently, in the Caribbean, their high precision missile exercises. So that would be the hypersonic missiles they'd be talking about, with a predicted travel time of 12 minutes from Cuba to Washington, D.C.
Well, there is something else to bear in mind here too. There's probably not a lot of people truly understand about the significance of some of these, tax havens, would be a polite way of putting it.
Yeah.
So Taiwan itself is basically China's bit of land, if you sort of use it in very easy terms. All right, where all the dirty dealings and dodgy stuff happens. Majority of your Chinese cities and that sort of thing, there is no gambling. They do not allow casinos or any sort of high stakes gaming, anything like that, because the repercussions of it can bring shame against the Communist Party. So what they've done is they set up Taiwan many years ago, even before the British really got involved in Hong Kong and that sort of thing. So, because Hong Kong originally was a British clearinghouse, and Taiwan and Hong Kong were very, very tightly knit. So hence why if you go to Taiwan, you'll find lots of casinos, you'll find plenty of lawyers and tax accountants, and basically that is used in order to siphon off dirty money. Now, the United States have the Bahamas, the UK now have the Canary Islands, and Europe have the likes of Luxembourg, Switzerland. They're all part and parcel of this, where they use third countries in order to hide their dirty dealings. In order to really stop the deep state, the one big thing that you need to do is actually cut the head off the snake by stopping the finances. Once the money stops, that's it. They're their stuff. They cannot bribe. They cannot go ahead with their corruption the way that they used to. So having a look at things at the moment, like where the fleet are at the moment, they could be very easily poised to take out the Bahamas, but they're also just as easily able to take out Taiwan. So there's two of your biggest, money laundering sites in the world. That are. Oh, hang on, we've got some bad audio. Is the audio okay your side, Kat?
Working perfectly.
Oh, okay. No, your audio's just gone to pack on your side.
I'll try not to talk.
Yeah, it's like coming in really, really scratchy. So
Okay.
I don't know whether sorry, I can hardly even make out what you're saying there, Carl.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, there you go. You sound like you're back.
Back. Is bring it to a close. We've been nearly 50 minutes, and the other guys are going to pop in for a bit of a chat too. So there's so much more to talk about, and I'm looking forward to the day where we talk about a few more of the interesting aspects of your past life and what you do these days.
How mate? Yeah, you're breaking up again, but yeah, I'll certainly be happy to come back on and talk some more. There's still a lot more to do.
Excellent stuff. I look forward to having you back real time, very soon. Bob has been just away for information this time around, hasn't he?